Hello, welcome here. Have you ever felt that the kinder you are, the more problems seem to find you? That your generous heart, instead of attracting peace and gratitude, sometimes brings a torrent of demands, misunderstandings, or even outright exploitation? You offer help, you give your time, you listen empathetically, only to end up feeling drained, unappreciated, or worse, taken it. It's a paradox many hearted individuals face, the very quality they value most. Their kindness seems to open a door not to connection, but to silent suffering and self-doubt. You might wonder, am I doing something wrong? Is there a hidden flaw in my generosity? This isn't just about bad luck. It is about a profound psychological dynamic that can turn your best intentions into a pathway to personal disaster. Today, we're going to uncover why this happens, and more importantly, how you can reclaim your kindness as a superpower, not a vulnerability. This isn't about becoming a bad person. It is about becoming a wisely kind one, someone who understands the nuanced interplay between giving, receiving, and self-preservation. It is about empowering you to navigate the complexities of human relationships with both compassion and strength. So, if you might just discover the missing piece that allows your inherent goodness to flourish without being exploited. Let's start by dissecting what we often perceive as kindness. For many, it is an unwavering desire to please others, to avoid conflict at all costs, to put others' needs consistently before your own. This often manifests as an inability to say no, an immediate willingness to drop everything to help someone, even when it means sacrificing your own well-being, or a perpetual state of apologizing for things that aren't your fault. You might find yourself constantly anticipating others' desires, meticulously crafting your responses to ensure no one is upset, or taking on tasks that clearly belong to someone else simply to. This isn't just being nice. This is often a deep-seated pattern of people pleasing, a term that sounds benign but can be incredibly damaging. This pattern is fueled by a fear of rejection, a fear of disapproval, a fear of being perceived as selfish or difficult. It is a subconscious negotiation where you trade your authenticity and personal needs for external validation and the fleet. But here is the crucial insight. This brand of kindness, while well-intentioned, often operates from a place of insecurity, not genuine strength. And it is precisely this insecurity that can, paradoxically, invite disaster. This brings us to our first core concept, the psychology of pathological altruism. While altruism is generally celebrated as a noble human trait, pathological altruism is an extreme form of self-sacrifice, where one's own well-being is consistently and excessively compromised for the sake of others, often leading to negative consequences for both the giver and the receiver. Think of it as kindness gone awry, like a medicine that is essential in small doses but toxic in large ones. It is not the same as healthy empathy or compassion, where you feel for others and act to alleviate. Instead, pathological altruism often stems from a distorted sense of responsibility, a belief that you are solely responsible for others' happiness or problems, or an unconscious desire to gain love and approval through martyrdom. Analysis: where does this come from? Often its roots lie deep in our early experiences. Perhaps you grew up in a household where your own needs were secondary, where you learned that being good meant being good. Maybe you were praised for being the helpful one or criticized for expressing your own desires. These early lessons can hardwire a pattern of behavior where your sense of self-worth becomes intrinsically linked to how much you give or how much you sacrifice. We see this in attachment styles, particularly anxious attachment, where individuals may over-give in an attempt to secure love and avoid abandonment. Societal conditioning also plays a massive role. We're bombarded with messages that equate selflessness with virtue, often without adequately distinguishing between genuine, empowered giving and sacrificial, depleted giving. We're retaught that nice people finish last, but also that it is better to give than to receive, creating a confusing moral landscape. The difference between pathological altruism and healthy altruism is simple yet profound. Healthy altruism comes from a place of abundance. You give because you have enough, because it brings you joy, and because you choose to. Pathological altruism often comes from a place of scarcity. You give because you feel you must, because you fear the consequences of not giving, or because you believe your own needs are less important. It is a subtle application. How do you recognize if you're re-engaging in pathological altruism? Start by honestly assessing your emotional state after giving. Do you feel genuinely joyful and fulfilled, or do you feel drained, resentful, or taken advantage of? Are you consistently canceling your own plans, neglecting your own health, or overextending your financial resources to help others? Do you find yourself are you giving freely, or are you secretly hoping for appreciation, reciprocation, or even love in return? If you feel bitter when your sacrifices aren't acknowledged, it's a strong sign that your giving isn't truly selfless, but rather a transaction you haven't explicitly articulated. To begin shifting this pattern, pause before automatically agreeing to a request. Ask yourself, do I genuinely have the capacity, time, and energy for this right now, without compromising my own well-being? What is my true motivation for saying yes? This moment of conscious reflection is the first step towards reclaiming your agency. This leads us directly to our second core concept: boundaries fade the invisible shields. If pathological altruism is the problem, then setting clear, firm boundaries are not about being unkind or selfish. They are an essential act of self-respect and a fundamental component of healthy relationships. Think of them as the fences around your property. They don't exist to keep everyone out, but to define what is yours, what you are responsible for, and what you will allow within your personal space. Without these fences, anyone can wander in, take what they want, emotionally, psychologically, and even physically. Without boundaries, you become an open field, susceptible to every passing demand, mood, and expectation. Analysis: the fear of setting boundaries is deeply ingrained in many nice people. You worry you will offend someone, be seen as uncaring, or lose a relationship. This fear is a powerful deterrent, often rooted in the belief that But here's the truth. Weak boundaries don't foster genuine connection. They invite exploitation and resentment. When you consistently say yes to what you mean no, you slowly erode your own self-respect and build silent resentment towards the other person. They, in turn, learn that your yes doesn't mean you're genuinely able to help, but rather that you're unwilling to say no. This dynamic can lead to a cycle of escalating demands and increasing frustration for both parties. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, and respect includes acknowledging and honoring each other's limits. When you articulate your boundaries, you are in essence teaching others how to treat you. You are communicating your value and demonstrating that you deserve to be treated with consideration. It is a brave act of self-love, and it paradoxically strengthens genuine connections by filtering out those who don't respect your limits. Application. So, how do you begin to establish and maintain these crucial invisible shields? First, identify your personal limits. What are you truly comfortable with? What drains your energy? What are your non-negotiables? These might be your time, your energy. Once you're clear on your limits, practice communicating them. Start small. Instead of an immediate yes, try phrases like, "Let me check my schedule and get back to you." "I need to think about that," or "I appreciate you asking, but I won't be able to do that right now." Remember, a boundary is not an argument, it is a statement. You don't need to over-explain or justify yourself. A simple, polite, and firm no. Be prepared for some discomfort, both your own and potentially the other person's reaction. Some people, accustomed to your previous lack of boundaries, might push back or react negatively. This is a crucial test. It reveals who respects you for who you are and who values you primarily for what you can do for them. Consistently reinforcing your boundaries teaches others how to interact with you in a way that honors your self-respect. This journey takes practice, and you still likely stumble, but each step is an investment in your mental and emotional health. If you're finding these insights valuable so far, consider taking a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us bring more transformative discussions like this to light. Let's move on to our third core concept, the reciprocity principle versus exploitation. This isn't just about favors. It is about emotional support, time, energy, and mutual understanding. The principle of reciprocity suggests that when someone does something for us, we feel a psychological urge to do something in return. It is a cornerstone of social cohesion. However, for the nice person lacking clear boundaries, this principle can be dangerously distorted, leading to one's analysis when you are a perpetual giver, always ready to lend a hand, offer advice, provide comfort, you inadvertently train others. Some individuals will recognize your open-heartedness and appreciate it, striving for a balanced exchange. Others, however, will learn that they can consistently take from you without feeling the need to give back. They might not be malicious. Often, they are simply operating. If you never ask for help, never voice your own needs, and always make yourself available, why would they assume you need anything? This creates a power imbalance where you become the resource and they become the consumer. The relationship ceases to be a dynamic exchange and becomes a draining pipeline. You invest, they withdraw. This isn't reciprocity, it is a form of exploitation, whether the resentment that brews in such one-sided relationships is a toxic byproduct, eroding the very foundation of trust and affection. You might feel like a doormat while the other person might genuinely be oblivious to your silent suffering, believing you are simply happy to give because you never voice otherwise. Application: how do you cultivate relationships based on genuine reciprocity and avoid falling into the trap of It can feel incredibly uncomfortable, especially if you're used to being the strong, independent one. But asking for help is not a sign of weakness. It is an act of vulnerability that strengthens bonds and allows others to experience the joy of giving. Start with small, manageable requests. For example, could you grab a coffee for me if you were going that way? Or I was feeling a bit overwhelmed today, could you just listen for Are there certain individuals who consistently take more than they give? Do they acknowledge your efforts, or do they seem to expect them? If a relationship feels consistently draining, and you're always the one initiating, supporting, and solving, it is a red flag. It's okay to gently recalibrate these dynamics. This might involve subtly reducing your availability to those who don't reciprocate, or directly communicating your needs and Remember, true friendship and healthy partnership flourish where both parties feel seen, heard, and valued, and where the flow of giving and receiving is balanced and freely given, not coerced by unspoken guilt. Our fourth core concept delves into the heart of self-perception, self-worth, and external validation. For many nice people, the relentless pursuit of being liked and approved of by others is a primary motivator. Your internal barometer for self-worth isn't calibrated to an inner sense of value, but rather to the external reactions and opinions of those around you. This makes you profoundly vulnerable to the whims of others and susceptible to manipulation. It creates a precarious foundation for your identity, constantly shifting with the tides of external approval. Analysis: the trap of seeking validation through constant giving you might believe that if you just give enough, help enough, or sacrifice enough, you will finally earn the love, respect, and appreciation you crave. This belief often stems from early experiences where conditional love or approval was common. You learned that your value was contingent on your performance or your ability to meet others' expectations. Consequently, you may have developed an achievement addiction or a niceness addiction where your worth. But here is the painful reality. External validation is a fleeting drug. No matter how much you receive, it is never truly enough to fill the void of a lacking internal self. Worth: it is like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. The water validation pours in, but it immediately leaks out, leaving you constantly thirsty for more. Furthermore, people-pleasing, born from a need for validation, often While you might temporarily avoid conflict, you often earn superficial niceness rather than genuine respect. People respect those who respect themselves. When you consistently devalue your own needs, you inadvertently signal to others that your needs are less important, reinforcing the very pattern you're trying to escape. True inner confidence, on the other hand, comes from a deep, unwavering application. Building intrinsic self-esteem is a journey, not a destination, but it starts with a critical shift in perspective. Begin by consciously decoupling your sense of self-worth from external outcomes or others' evaluations. This means actively challenging the belief that you are only valuable when you are serving others. Practice self-affirmation that focuses on your inherent qualities, your values, and, for instance, instead of "I'm a good person because I helped Jane," try "I'm a compassionate person and I chose to help Jane because it aligned with my values." Start prioritizing your own needs and desires, even in small ways. What brings you joy? What replenishes your energy? Dedicate time to these activities without guilt. This isn't selfish. It is foundational. When your cup is full, you can give from a place of genuine abundance. This also involves practicing self-compassion when you make mistakes or when someone disapproves of you. Understand that not everyone will like you, and that is okay. Your worth is not up for negotiation based on someone else's opinion. This internal shift is profoundly liberating and allows your kindness to flow from a place of strength and authenticity rather than a desperate plea for acceptance. Now, many nice people confuse assertiveness with aggression, believing that to express their needs or opinions means being rude or confrontational. This misunderstanding often traps them in a cycle of passive behavior, where their voice goes unheard and their boundaries are constantly trampled. However, true assertiveness is the vital middle ground between passivity and aggression. It is the art of communicating your needs, thoughts, and feelings clearly. Analysis: consider the spectrum of communication styles. At one end, you have passivity, avoiding conflict, deferring to others, apologizing excessively, and allowing your own needs to be overlooked. This often leads to feelings of resentment, anxiety, and a sense of powerlessness. At the other end is aggression, dominating conversations, attacking others, ignoring their feelings, and demanding that your needs be. Assertiveness, however, is a powerful and healthy alternative. It acknowledges that you have rights just as others do. It means stating your truth without apology, defending your boundaries without guilt, and expressing your desires without demanding immediate compliance. When you are assertive, you are not trying to control others. You are simply taking responsibility for your own communication and expressing. This fosters healthier relationships because it promotes honesty, clarity, and mutual respect. People are less likely to exploit you when you clearly articulate your limits and expectations. It also builds your self-confidence as you learn that your voice matters and that you are capable of navigating challenging social interactions effectively. Application: how can you develop a more assertive communication style? First, practice you instead of saying, "You always make me feel bad when you ask for favors at the last minute." Try, "I feel overwhelmed when I receive last-minute requests because it disrupts my plans." This focuses on your experience rather than blaming the other person, making the communication less confrontational. Second, be direct and specific. Avoid hints, passive aggression, or expecting others to read your mind. For example, instead of, "Oh, I don't know if I can," try, "No, I won't be able to do that this week." Third, learn to maintain eye contact and use a calm, steady voice. Your nonverbal cues are just as important as your words. Practice in low-stakes situations, perhaps with a trusted friend or family member. Remember, assertiveness isn't about winning an argument. It is about expressing. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but with practice, it becomes a natural and empowering way to navigate the world. If you're finding value in these deep dives, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss our future explorations into psychology and philosophy. Now let's turn our attention to our sixth and crucial concept, distinguishing true empathy from codependency. This is a beautiful human capacity. However, when empathy crosses the line into codependency, it becomes a burden, not a blessing. Codependency is a behavioral pattern where an individual is excessively reliant on others for their sense of identity, self-worth, and emotional regulation, often leading them to neglect their own needs while attempting to control or fix others' problems. Analysis: the fine line between true empathy allows you to understand and share the feelings of another, prompting you to offer support where appropriate. But from a place of distinct selfhood, you understand their pain, but you don't become their pain. You offer a hand, but you don't try to carry them entirely. Codependency, on the other hand, blurs these lines. You might feel so enmeshed in someone else's problems that you lose sight of where you end and they begin. You might feel an overwhelming. This often manifests as constantly trying to solve others' problems for them, making excuses for their poor choices, or sacrificing your own well-being to prop them up. The paradox is that while you believe you are helping, you are often enabling their dysfunctional patterns, preventing them from developing their own coping mechanisms and taking responsibility for their lives. Furthermore, this dynamic, you become an emotional sponge, absorbing everyone else's anxieties and challenges, leaving little room for your own emotional processing. You feel compelled to fix, because if you don't, you might feel guilty, useless, or even fear that the relationship will collapse. This isn't genuine help. It is a desperate attempt to maintain control and alleviate your own anxiety through another person's life. Application: wise compassion involves understanding another's suffering and desiring to alleviate it, but doing so from a place of non-attachment and clear boundaries. It means offering support that empowers rather than enables. Ask yourself, am I genuinely helping this person grow and take responsibility, or am I just patching up their immediate pain while allowing them to avoid the underlying issues? Am I sacrificing my own needs to solve? Instead of immediately stepping in to fix, try asking, what do you think you could do in this situation? Or how can I support you in finding your solution? Offer advice and listening, but resist the urge to take over. Allow others to experience the natural consequences of their choices, as this is often where true learning and growth occur. This also means recognizing that you are not responsible for another adult's happiness or problems. This doesn't mean becoming cold or uncaring. It means caring deeply without allowing yourself to be consumed or exploited. It is about recognizing that true love and support allow for individual agency and growth, both for yourself and for the other person. So, what have we learned today? We've explored the uncomfortable truth that while kindness is a virtue, an unchecked boundary-less form of it can become a conduit for We've examined pathological altruism, the self-destructive impulse to sacrifice your well-being for others, often born from early conditioning and a need for external validation. We've understood that boundaries are not walls of separation, but rather the essential architecture of healthy connection and self-respect. They communicate your value and teach others how to treat you. We've distinguished genuine reciprocity from exploitation, highlighting the importance of balanced giving and receiving in all relationships. We've stressed the crucial journey of building intrinsic self-worth, freeing yourself from the fluctuating tides of external validation, and we've embraced assertiveness as the empowering language of respect, allowing you to voice your needs and opinions clearly and calmly. Finally, we've learned to discern between true empathy and the draining grip of codependency, empowering you to offer wise compassion that genuinely supports without enabling. The ultimate goal here is not to cease being kind, but to become wisely kind, to transform your kindness from a potential vulnerability into a powerful, discerning force that benefits both yourself and the world around you. It is about recognizing that your well-being is not a luxury but a necessity, and that a truly generous spirit is one that knows how to protect itself, how to say no with grace, and how to give from a full cup, not an empty one. This shift in perspective is not selfish. It is ultimately more sustainable, more authentic, and more impactful. It is about living a life where your inherent goodness is a source of strength and joy. These are not just theoretical concepts. They are practical thinking models designed to empower you in your daily interactions. I encourage you to reflect on these ideas, to observe your own patterns, and to begin making small intentional changes. Start with one boundary you want to establish, one request for help you want to make, or one instance where you choose to prioritize your own well-being. Each step is a profound act of self. Remember, true kindness begins with you, with honoring your own needs and respecting your own limits. When you cultivate this inner strength, your external acts of kindness become far more potent and meaningful, flowing from a place of genuine abundance and wisdom. I truly hope today's sharing provides you with a new perspective on the world and on yourself. It is a challenging but incredibly rewarding journey. If this video resonated with you, please consider giving it a thumbs up. It helps more people discover these important insights. And if you want to continue exploring profound psychological and philosophical ideas that can transform your life, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. We delve into these topics weekly, offering tools and perspectives to help you navigate life's complexities with greater wisdom.